Utsanakuladhamanam Manusyanam Janardana Narake Nyatam Vaso Bhavatityanu Shushuma.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Krishna, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family traditions dwell always in hell. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna bases his argument not on his own personal experience, but on what he has heard from the authorities. That is the way of receiving real knowledge. One cannot reach the real point of factual knowledge without being helped by the right person who is already established in that knowledge. There is a system in the Varnashram institution by which before death one has to undergo the process of atonement for his sinful activities. One who is always engaged in sinful activities must utilize the process of atonement called the prayashita. Without doing so, one surely will be transferred to hellish planets to undergo miserable lives as a result of sinful activities. Next verse.
Aho Bata Mahatma Papam Hartum Vyavasita Vayam Yad Rajya Sukha Lokena Hantum Svajanam Udyataha.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Driven by such selfish motives, one may be inclined to such sinful activities as the killing of one's own brother, father, or mother. There are many such instances in the history of the world. But Arjuna, being a saintly devotee of the Lord, is always conscious of moral principles and therefore takes care to avoid such activities. Next.
Verse
Rispira
4.
might be here.
Pardon?
Rispira might be here. I just saw her pop up. She
Oh,
might be up at the house, so we may see her here shortly.
okay, cool.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Radhe Radhe. Here she is.
Uh,
I see her. Wait.
yeah, I see her in local chat. Yadi mam aprati karam ashastram shastrapanaya dhartarashtrarane hanyus tanme kshema param bhavet.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Better
He
for
says,
me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unarmed and unresisting on the battlefield. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is the custom, according to Kshatriya fighting principles, that an unarmed and unwilling foe should not be attacked. Arjuna, however, decided that even if attacked by the enemy in such an awkward position, he would not fight. He did not consider how much the other party was bent upon fighting. All these symptoms are due to soft-heartedness resulting from his being a great devotee of the Lord. Next verse.
text 46. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktvarjuna sankye rato pashta upavishat vishrija sasharam chapam shokasam vigna manasaha.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. While observing the situation of his enemy, Arjuna stood up on the chariot, but he was so afflicted with lamentation that he sat down again, setting aside his bow and arrows. Such a kind and soft-hearted person in the devotional service of the Lord is fit to receive self-knowledge. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-Gita in the manner of observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And I'll stop there and see if anybody wants to say we finished the first chapter. Any comment on the story so far?
I think that that's the journey of the individual, that they just get to the point where they give up.
I think that's a good analogy. When I was reading this chapter, this is our third day doing chapter one, our third week. I was thinking of it, this is introduction. This is not the interesting stuff. But I changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting part because it really, I think Prabhupada does a really good job of telling us about Arjuna. It's, the purports bring it to life because we don't have the time to read all of the background and he just tells us all of it.
Right. Yeah, I
So,
agree.
so I'll go on. Candida didn't make it. Okay, so we're gonna go to chapter two, and
Chapter.
Daci's gonna continue reading the Sanskrit.
Okay. It's really tiny on my screen, so I'm really
And
struggling.
yeah, I can't affect your screen since you're watching it on your own screen. So do the best you can. I think it's fine. If it's only 30 minutes, it's fun.
Yeah, zooming doesn't make it any bigger. All right. Chapter 2, verse 1.
Yes.
Sanjaya uvacha tam tata kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishadantam idam vakyam uvacham madhusudanaha.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind oppressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Sudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose the Bhagavad-Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Next chapter. Next verse. Candida, are you here? I saw her show up on the screen.
Yeah, I did too.
Do you want to do the Sanskrit, Candida? Okay, we are on, is that okay? That's okay with you too, right, Dossie?
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course.
We are on verse 2 of chapter 2. So,
Okay,
Hare Krishna.
let me. Hare Krishna. Okay, verse chapter 2, text 2.
Correct.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I just love the Sanskrit. Okay, text 2.2. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Kutastva Kashmalam Idam Vishame Samupashtitam Anarya Justam Asvargyam Akirti Kirti Karam Arjuna.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. Absolute truth is realized in three phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal all-pervading spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, this conception of the Absolute Truth is explained thus. Vedanta tat tattva vidas, tattvam janam advayam, brahmati paramatmati bhagavan iti sabdyate. The Absolute Truth is realized in three phases of understanding by the knower of the Absolute Truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the Absolute Truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These three divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has three different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. One who studies the sunshine only is the preliminary student. One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced, and one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. Ordinary student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to knowledge of the Paramatma feature of. I am losing my place. I have to make this text bigger. The student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the Absolute Truth. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Therefore, the Bhaktas, or the Transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagavan feature of the Absolute Truth, are the topmost Transcendentalists. Although all students who are engaged in the study of the Absolute Truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another, and yet the students of the three different phases are not in the same category. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parasara Muni, the father of Vasudeva. The Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned, and very much detached, but no one can claim he possesses all riches, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayan, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore it is concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord, or Bhagavan, known as Govinda, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. From Brahma Samhita 5.1. In the Bhagavatam also there is a list of many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many, many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. Ete kamsha kala pumsha Krishnas tu Bhagavan svayam indrari vyakalam lokam mridayanti yuga yuga. All the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansion of the Supreme Godhead, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Bhagavad-Gita 1:328. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the source of both the Supersoul and the impersonal Brahman. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the word kuta, wherefrom. Such impurities were never expected. Oh, thank you. Let me see, where was I? Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and have a civilization based on spiritual realization. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the material world do not know that the aim of life is realization of the absolute truth, Vishnu or Bhagavan, and they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are called non-Aryans. Although Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryan. Such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. Anyone want to say anything about that? That was a lot.
I have a comment about the translation or the editing. In the version that I'm reading in this last paragraph, second sentence, it says, such unmanly sentiments were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. But what does your translation say, or your version say, Bhakti?
Let me find
It's that last paragraph, second sentence.
second sentence. Mine says, I'm going to just say, such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. The
I
word
have that too.
Yeah,
we're,
so this says unmanly sentiments.
Oh, really? That's
Uh-huh.
weird.
Unmanly
this is the
sentiments.
Veda-based one.
Yeah, this one is a PDF that I downloaded. It says it's the authorized Macmillan edition.
Let's see what, I have that one. That's what I've got in my lap on my iPad. Let's see what it says. If mine says what yours says.
Manly. I don't know.
Unmanly sentiments.
That doesn't sound right to me. I don't think Prabhupada would say that.
Well, this is the pre-edited. The database
Mm.
is the edited version.
Oh,
So it's
I guess
This one
that's that.
says, persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life. Although Arjuna was a Kshatriya.
it's the last second sentence.
Oh, mine says the same as yours, Dasi. Such unmanly sentiments were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans.
Yeah, interesting.
That's what mine says. I have the Macmillan version on my iPad.
Right.
Hmm.
Uh,
So, next verse. You ready, Candida? Verse
Yes.
3? Okay.
Yes. Let me just, okay. Verse 3. Klaibyam naitat tvayupapadyate shudram hridaya darbalyam Votishta Parantapa.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O son of Tirtha, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weaknesses of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Pritha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of a kshatriya declines to fight, he is a kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahmin acts impiously, he is a Brahmin in name only, Brahmana in name only. Such kshatriyas and Brahmanas are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a kshatriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives. But Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity or so-called non-violence should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. Um, I wanted to go back. I forgot to mention, did anyone notice how Prabhupada defined Shudra? It was like 3 verses back. I didn't mention it. He gave a definition of Shudra I don't remember seeing before. Let's, uh, it wasn't so bad. In other words, usually you think of just I may find it later.
May I say something?
Sure.
You know what? Shudra is not a bad thing. One can be a devotee and actually a very exalted devotee, but also a Sudra. And that's in the case of Ramananda Roy when he was speaking with Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya considered Ramananda Roy his most intimate associate, but he was Sudra. So the most important thing is being a devotee. And also in the Sudra class are artists, musicians. They are the ones in society that make things beautiful. It's not just a laborer or something. So I just wanted to contribute that.
Hmm. Thank you. I didn't know that. Okay, so we're on. Are you ready to read text 4, Candida? Let me see.
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay.
Text 4. Arjuna uvacha katam bhishmam aham sankhye dronam cha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarhav adisudana.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Respectable superiors like Bhishma, the grandfather, and Dronacharya, the teacher, are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counterattacked. It is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then how is it possible for Arjuna to counterattack them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather Ugrasena or his teacher Sandapani Muni? These were some of the arguments offered by Arjuna to Krishna. Next
Okay,
up.
so yeah,
We'll make this our last one then, all right? This is 1027.
sure. Gurun ahatva hi mahanubhavam shreyo bhaktum bhaiksyam api haloke hatvarta kamamstu gurum ihaiva bunjiya bhogam rudhira pradigdhan.
That was a hard one. Okay, translation by Srila Prabhupada. It would be better to live in this day by begging than to live at the cost of the life of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. Oh, it was fine. That was a hard one. I was following along with you going, oh my, that's a hard word. Um,
Sometimes there's different tunes. I don't
yeah,
know what would have been the one for that one, but yeah, it kind of threw me off. But you've been
Now,
reading just wonderfully,
I,
and
I think it's interesting that he's still talking about enjoying the spoils of blood. Like we're looking at this as a spiritual enactment, as a transcendental event, and yet Arjuna's still thinking about he doesn't want to spill blood, and that's his thinking rather than anything bigger than that. And so I think it's easy for us to sit here and say, "Yeah, Arjuna, do this," you know.
yeah, right. I mean, imagine, you're right in the middle of the battlefield and you're looking across at the opponents, and there's, your relatives, your dearmost relatives, and you have to, like, very enthusiastically and with force go forward and kill them. And my gosh, who would be able to do that? I would just want to sit down and cry, or just like, yeah, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this.
I'm gonna stop the